What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Frankie Bones, and today is going to be a special episode on the NFL where we talk about the upcoming Super Wildcard Weekend. We had a crazy Week 18 where we saw some teams in must-wins get some wins and some teams in must-wins get some losses. Unfortunately for the Packers, they weren't able to overcome the Lions. It was a win and get in, clean situation, and ultimately they weren't able to get the job done. Aaron Rodgers really never had a shot, and the Lions sort of just held the ball down the stretch and were able to just put the game away. But we're going to be talking about the wild card matchups. We're going to go over some lines, my thoughts on what is going to happen. There is going to be some betting and some gambling in here, so if you know anybody who does have a gambling problem, please feel free to call 1-800-GAMBLER as well as reaching out to your local gaming board for some additional resources to assist you. So I'm going to go through these games in chronological order, starting on Saturday afternoon, where we have the Seattle Seahawks facing off against the San Francisco 49ers. For this game, the 49ers are favored by 9.5 points as well as 10.5, so I guess, some people may have been seeing some value in the Seahawks. Realistically, for me, and I think a lot of people know sort of how this game is going to go, the 49ers are really going to clap them, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think that this spread should be much larger, and it's not the largest spread on the board, which I thought potentially it could have been, but we'll get to that a little bit later on as we go through the other games. But just wanted to bring up a couple of stats. I would take the 49ers at minus 9.5. Some of these other picks, I'm not going to pick a side. I may pick the over-under, or just tell you it's going to be close and not give you guys a pick, obviously. But for this game, it's pretty clear the 49ers have the number one rushing offense and the number one defense as well. Ultimately, they're just going to be winning in the trenches all night long, or all day long, rather. Midday for the Niners. But I think it's just going to be too much. Their offense is so dynamic. Now they have Deebo Samuel coming back, and he's healthy. The line is looking in really good shape. The running backs are really coming into form. Even Jordan Mason's been playing really well. Elijah Mitchell coming back off of IR has been playing really well. In addition to the massive acquisition of Christian McCaffrey about halfway through the season. But I think ultimately it's just going to be too much. They're just such a dominant team, and they just play that old style of football. And just think that's going to be, unfortunately, too much for Seahawks to overcome. But a couple other stats I want to throw at you guys just to get some numbers and sort of back sort of what I've been saying with this pick. Their average point differential for the Niners is plus 10. So they, on average, are winning by 10 points. And they played some pretty tough teams this year. So, obviously, the spread's right there at minus 9.5, minus 10. Not sure what you'll see it at this point. I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. So, all these lines are updated to what it is at this point. But I think it's pretty clear how this game's going to go. The Niners average 138 rushing yards per game while holding opponents to 77. Really just control the pace of the game and dictate the sort of game that you want to have. They also have a 45% third down conversion rate. I think this is really good. They put themselves in great positions to be able to continue drives, and I think the longer that they have the ball, they'll wear down the Seahawks defense and ultimately just put this game away nice and early and look forward to a second round matchup. The next game that is on the slate that will be taking place on Saturday night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Most recent line that I have for this is the Chargers minus 2.5. Pretty interesting what is going on with this game. Chargers have a pretty big injury that they are hoping to get back potentially for this game in Mike Williams, one of their really high ball receivers that make some really dynamic offense and allows some of the other playmakers to get out in space instead of just double covering Keenan or really just opening up different schemes. And he's a really, really good red zone target. So we'll have to stay tuned on that. I don't believe he's been practicing the past few days. We won't get any news today until later on after the practice session and media is done, probably around 5 or 4:30. But my thoughts on this game, the Chargers have had trouble the past few years in being clutch, if that makes any sense. Their team last year, there was a lot of struggle with fourth downs, Brandon Staley going for it just about every time without fail. And he's gone back on his ways a little bit this year, being a little more conservative. They have a great team, Austin Eckler and Keenan, Justin Herbert. They have a great ton of weapons. They were potentially going to have Rashawn Slater back. I believe they activated him off of IR for his practice window. Don't believe that he's going to play, though. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anything about him practicing. But I think I'm going to take the Jaguars here. And one reason for this, shout out my boy Jack. I know that he's a big Jags fan, and he'll probably be over at the game. It'll be super exciting. Duval's been standing up. They've been playing pretty well over the past few games. They've won their last 5, the Jaguars, that is, 3 of which on the road. And they're really rounding into form. Trevor Lawrence has looked much, much better the last 10 weeks of the season. The running game is getting going. Zay Jones is playing really, really well. Evan Ingram, which it hurts me to say, is a former Giant, playing really, really well over the past few games. But I think this is going to be really close, so I'm definitely going to take the points. I think the Jaguars can definitely win outright. I think they have the coaching edge in Doug Peterson, a guy who's been there before and has won the Super Bowl. And I think that ultimately that can be the deciding factor for this game. So just want to put out a few contingencies there. I wrote down a couple of notes here. I said the Jags will win if they have to be able to convert on third down and continue drives, because the Chargers are a very, very dynamic offense. You're going to want to have that defense on the field as much as possible. They have been a little suspect. They do have Nick Bosa back, Joey Bosa, so that could definitely be a game changer for them. They have some great pieces in the secondary as well, but you're really going to want to wear down that defense, and I think ultimately it definitely could be a high-scoring game, a lot of trickery, a lot of high-powered offense, but and then the other thing is just win the turnover battle. I think that Trevor Lawrence needs to hold on to the ball, Etienne needs to hold on to the ball, and if they're able to get a few turnovers on defense, maybe even one, just winning that battle could be really big, getting that extra possession and sort of giving them the edge and an extra chance to score. So I'm going to take the Jags here. We'll send it over to Sunday, where we have a great slate of games. So starting off the day on Sunday, going to go through this game pretty quickly because I think a lot of people already know what's coming down the line. This Buffalo Bills team appears to sort of be a team of destiny. The Miami Dolphins are traveling up to Buffalo, where Buffalo is a 13-point favorite in this game. I mean, it's pretty disrespectful to put it any higher, but realistically, I think that's what is going to happen. Unfortunately, Miami's had a tough ending to the season. Tua has been a little banged up, and currently he still has not been able to pass concussion protocol, which definitely is a little bit alarming. He's had a few concussions that have been confirmed this year, and having multiple in a year can be really dangerous, and ultimately can make it really tough to pass a physical and pass that baseline concussion test. So really not much more to say than the Bills are a very dominant team, and the Dolphins right now, just unfortunately or not, they're going to have Skylar Thompson at the wheel for this week. No Teddy Bridgewater as well. So just really didn't look that great last week. The Bills' defense is getting healthy. I think they're playing super, super well. The offense is obviously super high-powered. And really, DeMar is going to be floating all over the stadium on Sunday. up in Buffalo, up in Orchard Park. And I think that it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think that the team is really going to rally in this game, and I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. I would potentially even maybe look at the under. I'm not sure exactly what it is off the top of my head, but takes 2 to hit the over, and I just think that Miami's going to have a really difficult time in stopping this Buffalo offense. Defense sometimes does travel in the playoffs. We'll talk about that a little bit in some of the later games, but I think it's just going to be too much. Their defense is going to be worn out the entire game, and I think it's just going to be a blowout for the Bills. And now the game that you all have been waiting for me to talk about. My New York Giants are traveling to Minnesota. This game will be on Sunday at 4:30 Eastern Time. The Minnesota Vikings currently favored by 2 points at home. If people remember, the Giants ended up playing the Vikings in Week 16, where possibly one of the most inconsistent kickers, maybe ever, but definitely the past few years, Greg Joseph, the Joseph versus the Yosef, who is going to show up. He drilled a 61-yarder right in my face as the clock was expiring. Pretty brutal, but overall the G-Men did play a pretty good game. But obviously I'm going with the Giants here. I would go Giants money line. I would take Giants +2 if you're really not feeling safe about the Giants money line, but I'll tell you why you should feel safe about that. So, like I had mentioned, the Giants just played them really well in Week 16. At this point, G-Men still playing well. They had to rebound after some scuffles after the 6-0 start. Had to try and rebound, refine their identity, work through some injuries. And that's where we're at right now. The Giants have been playing pretty well the past few weeks. Last week, they did rest their starters. But not a direct comparison, but I do want to talk about the 2007 Giants, which obviously went on to win the Super Bowl. They ended up playing the Patriots in Week 17, the undefeated Patriots. Obviously, we come to find out that, whatever it was, 18 wins and 1 Giant loss. I kind of forget, all the games are getting me mixed up now, but they played this team really well in that last week of the season. And I think there's something about the familiarity with playing a team so close like this. The Giants have a great coaching staff with Dable, with Kafka on offense, and obviously the boy Wink on D. The defense is getting healthy. Everybody rested last week. And I think this defense is really going to travel. They're playing indoors. Minnesota is a great environment, super loud in the dome. And I think we saw that throughout this season as they played really, really well this season. But I think the biggest factor here in this game is that Saquon Barkley had off last week. Now the Giants, when they win games, they dominate on the ground. They're able to control the possession. Daniel Jones has been great this year at limiting the turnovers. And again, giving the ball to Saquon Barkley. He may get 40 carries this game, but that's how they're going to win this game. They win up front. The offensive line has looked really, really good this year, really coming together as a team. Andrew Thomas, potentially the best left tackle in the league, outside of Trent Williams. And I think that the G-Men are really able to get this done. I think there's something about this team that has that underdog mentality when they really shouldn't. They really shouldn't. This team is really talented. They're really a receiver away. The offensive line is coming together, like I had said. And I think this is going to be a big win for the G-Men. I think it's going to open a lot of people's eyes. And I think if they play this game really well, I think that, if they get the Eagles next week, you never know what you're going to get. Obviously, the Eagles are resting up, but there is a premium on the price of playing games. G-Men took the week off last week. Eagles have the week off this week. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but Eagles might want to be a little scared in that spot in the division playing for a third time. But for that game, I'm going to take the G-Men. Money line, and the spread. Transitioning over to the late window on Sunday evening, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Bengals in the spot are favored by 9 points. Everybody at this point should know exactly why that is the case. In division, you think that it would be a little bit closer, but no Lamar Jackson this week or any of the past few weeks. There's a big cloud circling around the organization, I would say, about what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. Ultimately, he may end up with the franchise tag if they're not able to negotiate this offseason and come to the deal that Lamar is looking for. The Browns, again, in the division, really set the market with Deshaun Watson, and he's looking for all that guaranteed money. He's the one who has won playoff games. He is the one who is the MVP. And I think this cloud is sort of just going to hang around Baltimore throughout the rest of the season, and their season's going to end on Sunday. The Bengals offense is really, really dynamic. Again, I love taking great quarterbacks in the playoffs. It's what you got to do. It's why I took Danny Dimes and the Giants. Only half kidding. I do love Danny, but Joe Burrow is going to be too much. Jamar Chase, he might have 200 yards in this game. I think that ultimately the Ravens are a little bit one-dimensional without Lamar. Yes, Tyler Huntley can do a lot of the similar things, but if you think Lamar can't throw, Tyler Huntley definitely cannot throw then. And I think ultimately that the Bengals front four are going to have to get a lot of pressure, and I think Baltimore's defense is going to be on the field a lot. They have a lot of speed. They have great linebackers, safeties, corners. I just don't think it's going to be enough. The spread is a little iffy, so I'd say if you're on the fence about where you want to ride with the points, I'd potentially lean towards getting an alternate spread, maybe take it at a touchdown, -6.5. I think could make a lot of sense here, but honestly, I feel pretty comfortable laying this full 9, maybe even take it upwards of 10, sort of similar to the 49ers line, but I think this game should really be a blowout. Cincinnati's won their last 10. They've won 10 of their last 11. They beat KC at home, Baltimore at home, at the Bucs, at home against Cleveland, at Pittsburgh, at New Orleans, at New England. Some of these are pretty tough places to play, and this team's really rounding into form. Probably been the best second half team, second half of the season team, maybe outside of the Chiefs, who, guess we'll talk about that next week, but Bengals roll here easy, in my opinion. I'll cover the 9, and, I think ultimately it's going to be a great end to the day. It could be close potentially, but, I don't have my fingers crossed. I'll take Bengals covering the 9 here. And wrapping up the slate here for the Super Wildcard Weekend coming up this weekend. Probably the most anticipated matchup of the 6 matchups that we have going on this week, or this weekend rather, is the Dallas Cowboys traveling down to Tampa to take on Tampa Tom and the Buccaneers. Dallas at the moment is favored by 2.5 points, which can sort of see it both ways. Dallas last week is sort of tough to overlook it. It is a little bit of an outlier. Their offense has been very high-powered. They've been scoring a ton of points to ultimately only put up a 6 spot in a game where if they won and the Eagles had potentially lost, that they could have had the 1 seed. Or they could have won the division, rather. And I think that's a pretty big deal because, yes, this didn't end up happening, and maybe with the stars aligning, with the Giants resting their players and the Eagles choosing to start all their starters, make sure they lock up that 1 seed, Jalen Hurts coming back into the mix for the Eagles. Just not a good look, and kind of going back and forth between if last week was an anomaly or if it's more a example of some of the issues that they've been having. Dak Prescott turning the ball over a ton. The other wide receivers not named CeeDee Lamb not stepping up. No Gallup or T.Y. Hilton. I think that they could run into some issues with this Bucs defense. On this game, though, I'm going to be lame, and I'm not going to pick a side. If I had to pick a side, personally, I think I would take Dallas at 2.5. I feel pretty comfortable in a field goal game. They do have a super high-powered offense. Can't say that I trust Mike McCarthy to scheme anything up and get into the lab and come back with some fire. But I do think that I'm going to go with the under in this game. And I'm going to tell you why. And this may change over the coming days. Obviously, it's Monday, so I'm not going to put a number on it. But I like the under. And there's a couple of reasons why I like the under. So both of these defenses are pretty excellent. So both of these are probably top 8 defenses, I would say, in the league. Tampa Bay is bottom 3rd in offensive efficiency. Yes, they have the skill players, but the line has not been there. Been a lot of quick throws, trying to make things happen. They've had difficulty running the ball. But that is one thing ultimately the Cowboys can see difficulties with. But ultimately, I think that it's going to be defensive stalwart. I think a lot of field goals. I think the teams are going to have trouble scoring. And I think the way that the game will play out is that Tom Brady will try and control the game. He realizes that it's a very high-scoring offense for the Cowboys. Realizes that his offense is not quite built that same way. It's going to be a lot of winning the turnover battle, long drives, third down conversions, small plays, special teams, things like that. So I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I would take the under. Whatever the number is at, I'd feel pretty comfortable with that. But that's going to do it for this video in terms of the picks and the previews for Super Wildcard Weekend coming up starting on Saturday afternoon. I'll run through the picks that I have for these games now. Starting with the early window on Saturday, I have San Francisco covering the 9.5 or whatever number that you want to get it at against the Seahawks. I have Jacksonville plus 2.5 at home. I love that with Dougie and the boys. The game after that is Saturday night. Sunday afternoon, we travel to Buffalo. I'm going to take them with the points. DeMar is going to be with them tomorrow. He did return home here at the end of this week. I think it's just going to be way too much without Tua for the Miami Dolphins. The Giants, money line, spread, whatever you want to take. They are going to beat the Vikings. And Greg Joseph just might miss one at the buzzer this time around. But I love the G-men in this spot, +2 or money line. Bengals -9. They're going to clean up the Baltimore Ravens, send them to the offseason to try and figure out what they're going to do with Lamar after they just spent all their money on Roquan Smith. Little questionable, great player, but so is Lamar. And then for the last game, I'm going to take the under. I'm not going to give you guys a number on it because it may switch up with the game being on Monday. But I love the under. Great defenses. Tom's going to control the pace. And it's in Tom's house, so you know he's going to do it. But that's going to be all for this NFL Super Wildcard Weekend preview. Look forward to bringing some more NFL videos next week and the following as we lead up to the Super Bowl. Wanted to thank you guys for all the support over the past few videos, whether it's liking, commenting, sharing the video with friends or family, and importantly, subscribing. I really do appreciate all the support over the past few videos. Look forward to keep rolling here as we keep going into 2023. But for now, that's going to be all, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.